All right, so we're going to read our story today. This is Humphrey, the Lost Whale. This is a true story written by Wendy Takuda and Richard Hall. The pictures, illustrations are by Hanako Wakiyama. There's Humphrey. Starts with a map. Shows you this is San Francisco, the Pacific Ocean. San Pablo, here's the ocean, and here are some lakes, the bay, another bay, and see all these rivers. That's going to be important to know. Those are little rivers and streams, all the way to Shag Slough, or Slow. I don't know how they say that. Something like that. All right, here's Humphrey the Lost Whale. Our story begins on a sunny day far out to sea. A pod of humpback whales was traveling south together for the winter. Humpback whales are magnificent creatures that sing beautiful songs to each other underwater. In the whole world, there are very few of them, so each one is quite special, and they are intelligent. Every winter they travel south. Every summer they head north, and they always know the way. That's amazing. Here's a picture. I'm going to have to show you each side. But even whales can make mistakes. One whale named Humphrey made a big one. He turned away from his friends and wandered under the Golden Gate Bridge into San Francisco Bay. There he goes into the bay. The bay is part of the ocean that is not as big. It's much more surrounded by land. Everyone was surprised to see Humphrey in the bay. People don't get to see humpback whales very often because they usually stay in very deep waters. It was a special treat to see one so close to the city of San Francisco. Humphrey was a spectacular sight. As long as a city bus and as big as 7 elephants put together, he would come up to breathe, appearing as if by magic, and people would stop whatever they were doing to watch him. There he is. Oh, and here's all the people in their boats. Then Humphrey did something that no whale had ever done. Instead of swimming back out to the ocean, into the sea, he went the wrong way up the Sacramento River. Look at him, there he is, going the wrong way. The big river became smaller and smaller as Humphrey traveled upstream. He was looking for the ocean, but it was clear Humphrey was lost. Look how narrow that river's getting. Hundreds of people came to see Humphrey in the river. They would stare out the water, waiting for him to come up for air. Then with a big swoosh, his giant back would appear, and someone would shout, "There he is!" He was an amazing sight, but something was wrong. Whales are supposed to live in salt water of the ocean, not in the fresh water of rivers. A whale would die if it stayed in fresh water too long. Humphrey was in trouble. Look at all the cars and people. So we heard in one of our stories, or one of our online videos, about saline. The ocean is made of saline, salt water, and Humphrey needs that to live. Everyone knew that Humphrey had to be turned back towards the ocean, but no one knew how to do that. After all, something like this had never happened before. The farther Humphrey went, the more worried everyone became. They wondered whether he was getting anything to eat, whether he was getting sick, or whether he would beach himself on the river. Beach himself means when he would land on the river and he'd get stuck. That's not good. One day, Humphrey squeezed under a tiny bridge. It was so small, no one could understand how he had done it. Now he was really in trouble. He was trapped. Oh my, poor Humphrey. The river beyond the bridge was very shallow and narrow. It was so small Humphrey could hardly turn around. There he was, a whale, stuck in a tiny stream, right in the middle of a farm field. It was hard to believe. Here's Humphrey. Something had to be done to get him out of there fast. Humphrey looked sick. The scientists knew he would die if he didn't get back to the ocean. Time was running out for Humphrey. The people trying to save Humphrey, I'm going to show you these pictures as I read, would have to move fast. The scientists, Coast Guard officers, and many others got together to work out a plan to save him. They decided to bang long pipes together underwater and scare him back down the river. That's a good idea. Here's the bottom picture. Here's Humphrey. At the same time, they would play a recording that would broadcast underwater. The sounds of whales eating. Maybe Humphrey would be so hungry and lonely he would swim toward the sound. These are pictures of sound waves trying to draw him in that direction. It worked. Humphrey turned around and started swimming back down the river. Everyone was relieved, but the danger wasn't over yet. Here's the next part. When Humphrey arrived at the little bridge, he stopped. He was afraid to go under it. He couldn't find a space big enough to go through. Wow, that's funny, because remember, he'd gone through it already once going the other way. But he got confused. People kept banging the pipes. Humphrey seemed frustrated. What would he do? Oh, poor Humphrey. As the pipes kept clanging, Humphrey became angry. He rolled from side to side and thrashed his great tail. People stopped banging the pipes. That's how whales show they're distressed or worried. But Humphrey's friends wouldn't give up. Here's a picture of them helping him. They knew they had to get him past the little bridge. If they didn't, he would die in the river. The people trying to save him decided to make the space under the bridge bigger. They brought in a huge crane and worked through the night to clear away some of the old pilings. These are called pilings, these pieces of wood that hold up the bridge. Pilings. That was a good idea, wasn't it? Would Humphrey notice the difference? The next day, here's all the people. They began clanging the pipes together again. Clang, clang! The boats moved closer to Humphrey to urge him toward the bridge. This was his last chance. Everyone watched nervously. Oh, everybody wants Humphrey to be okay, don't they? Looks like there's a lot more space now under that bridge with all the pilings gone. Humphrey bravely approached the bridge, but as he tried to swim under it, his head became stuck between the pilings, or lodged. The word lodged means stuck. He frantically bobbed his head up and down and thrashed his tail to free himself. It was a terrible moment. The people trying to save Humphrey thought it might be the end. Humphrey was stuck. Suddenly, Humphrey lifted one fin away out of the water, almost touching the bridge. As he twisted his body, he broke free from the pilings and swam through to the other side. Oh, yay, Humphrey. There was a shout from the banks of the river, then another and another, until everyone was cheering. Oh, we're cheering for Humphrey. Hooray for Humphrey, they shouted. He made it. Humphrey the lost whale was finally on his way home. The celebration. A whole flotilla of boats and the clang... let me start there again. A whole flotilla of boats and the clanging of pipes behind him helped Humphrey find his way down the river. Now, I'm going to tell you something about reading this book. I have not heard of a flotilla before, but I'm going to have to use some pictures and the way it's used in the sentence to help me understand it. A flotilla, let me think about it. It sounds like float and tilla. I don't know exactly what tilla means, but I know Godzilla has illa, and it's kind of, I'd have to think of it's kind of like that, maybe something large. I don't know for sure, but flotilla of boats. In the picture I see several boats. So I'm guessing it means many boats. Okay. Finally, Humphrey arrived at San Francisco Bay. Oh, here he is. So exciting. He's going the right direction now. Humphrey spent one whole day happily swimming around the bay. He did tricks for the people gathered along the shore to see him one last time. They oohed when he slapped his tail. They awed when he leapt into the air and belly flopped back into the water. Oh, look at all those pictures of Humphrey's tricks. Humphrey seemed to be saying goodbye and thank you to all of his friends who had helped to save his life. Wow, pretty amazing. The people who had helped rescue Humphrey also felt grateful. Humphrey had taught them a lot about humpback whales. He'd also become a good friend. Many times during his ordeal, Humphrey could have simply flicked his tail and overturned boats, carrying the people who were trying to help him, but he never did. He seemed to understand that they were his friends. Finally, in the late afternoon fog, Humphrey swam under the Golden Gate Bridge and back out to sea. Humphrey the whale had made it. He was finally home. And here are some notes about Humphrey. If you like to read and want to read more about that, I'm going to let you go ahead and read that on your own and pause it. But here are some actual pictures of Humphrey. Look, looks like they're spraying him with water so he won't get hurt. And there we are. There is his back in the water. Beautiful. So then once again we can see he started here in the Pacific Ocean, went under the bridge, went through here, all the way around there, down here, up and all the way back into here, near the farmer's field right in here. Oh, that's a great story. Humphrey the lost whale. I love whales almost as much as I love dolphins. This is a wonderful story and I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did.